In this video, we're going to take a look at our characters, the monsters, and first, the fire demon. So in the characters, fire demon blueprint. The components, capsule component, character movement, bond sensing. Here we can see the spheres of that shows us how it can see and hear. So hearing, threshold, sight, and so on. Okay, let's start from the top. First, monsters count. Just like with the items, on event begin play, we cast to first person character, get the monsters to kill variable and add 1 to it. And then we cast to first person character again, and on event player died, we will reset our AI states. So first, this is what happening, and then if player died, then we do this again. So this is a switch that is based, it's like a switch on integer. Just instead of an integer, we have this list of entries. So instead of numbers, we have, well, just entries, words, to indicate what it means for us. And roam will go to random location event and patrol to the patrol event. So move to random location is here. And if the current health of the monster is more than 0, if it's still alive, we use AI move to node, and it gets the actual location and get it's the location of the monster, and gets random point in navigatable radius. So the navigatable radius, if you press P, you will get this green highlights. They indicate the walkable area. Here, if you type nav, we have nav mesh bounds volume. There it is. So in this volume, all of the surfaces are being calculated, and it gives us the areas that monster can walk on. Also, you can notice that you have to take into account that the walls, the things that you want to move, they have to be dynamic obstacles, so that this recalculates dynamically for those objects. The AI, we have AI assigned to it. However, this is a standard AI. So here you can see we have AI fire demon, but it doesn't really have anything. As you can see, it's not even opened in full blueprint editor. It's just the standard one that you can get here. AI controller. So the only thing that was done to it, I renamed it to AI Fire Demon. So it's a standard one. Then after a slight delay, move to random location again. So this basically makes this a loop. Patrol. Patrol checks again if the monster is still alive. Same AI move to, however, the target location is not a random location, but location of the actor target point 1. And then next, after a slight delay, target point 2. and then after a slight delay, this repeats. So if we look at our monster in the scene, here we have this AI states, right? So we can choose idle, roam, or patrol, and in the beginning, it will go to the corresponding events, because we've set this. So if it's set to roam, we will go to random location logic. If it's set to patrol, we will go to patrol logic. And when player dies, this resets. And here you can see the target point 1 and 2. So if we find, well, there is a target point used by the portal here. If you click here and simply click there, you will have the first target point. You can get those target points here. Just drag it and you get a target point. Next let's go to what happens here before we go to this part. So when we take the monster take damage, when it takes damage, first checking if the monster is still alive, we subtract the damage from the health, and if it is less or equal to 0, we have event death that we will look later, which is right beneath. And if it's false, if we're still alive after taking damage, then we cast to first person character. And by the way, first person character, if you, by default, it has this execution node, enter and exit. And if you want it to be pure cast like this, you right click and you have convert to pure cast, and it becomes this type of node. So we cast to first person character, and if it's true, if it's success, then we move the AI to the location. So the damage causer, right? We're checking the damage causer. We check if it's the first person character and not some other monster, for example. And if it's us, then we move our character to our location. Now, event death. We first of all set simulate physics. So this makes him fall down and like a ragdoll. And we set no collisions to capsule component. And we disable the movement of the character, disable its senses, and we cast to first person character and set monsters killed to +1 from current value. Okay, what happens when on C player? So on C pawn sensing, we are casting to first person character and we set enemy variable. Now, it's not really necessary in this particular case because I haven't used this beyond our main character. So our enemy will always be first person character. However, if you want to experiment with having other options for the enemy of the monsters, then this is where you start. Like the rest of the logic uses enemy instead of player character because this is where we set our variable of enemy to be the first person character. So you might want to set the enemy to other characters. However, some other adjustments might be necessary in the fireball logic and the clause logic, like checking the current health of the enemy and so on. So next we do once. Chase and attack. Chase logic is here. Again, we check if the monster is still alive, if our senses are updating, and I think this check is not really necessary. It's either one or another in this particular situation. So AI moved to pawn itself, and the target actor is enemy. And enemy was set to first person character here, right? So after a slight delay, repeat, and this becomes a cycle, a loop. Now the attack logic here got a branch, and the fire logic happens only if the distance to the enemy is more than 250. If it's less, then we go for the clause. The fireball logic. We're checking if the monster is still alive. We're checking if the first person character is still alive. Then we make a line trace by channel to check if we can see if the monster can see us. So get a socket location head socket. There is a socket added to the head, and from there line trace goes to the actual location, the enemy location. And if the actor that we hit with this line trace equals the enemy, then we go on with our logic. So if there's a wall between us, it will do the line trace to us. However, there's a wall between us, right? So it will hit a wall, and it will return the result of hit actor wall, not us. So if there's a wall between us, then there's this line that brings us to the end. We skip the entire logic, and after a delay that varies, we attack again. So we repeat the whole thing again. And then it checks again if it can see us, and if it finally can see us, then we check if the monster is falling or not, because if it's in the air, well, it shouldn't be throwing fireballs. So again, this brings us to the end and skips the whole logic, and after a delay that varies, repeats the whole thing and checks it again. And then we set our actor rotation to face the enemy. So target is self, we get actor location, we find look at rotation, we use this node to get a rotator to the enemy. We get the enemy's location, we get self location, and we get a rotator. We break the vector and use only z-axis so that we only rotate horizontally. So after that, disable the movement for the character, so it stops when it shoots, right? So it shouldn't throw fireballs while walking. And there's a sequence. Now, well, this part is quite simple. We spawn a emitter attached at the fireball socket, which is just well, the same actually effect that the fireball got, so it appears in his hand like it is spawning it, right? So we make this emitter appear with a relative scale, and then we spawn sound attached of fire, the same at the same location, and then after a delay, this delays when the fireball will actually appear, and after that delay we destroy the components. So we stop the sound, we stop the emitter. And here is our animation for throwing the fireball. And there is a sequence of events. And here there's a little trick. Okay, so let's go here first, or where should I start? Okay, delay that happens from the beginning of the animation, right? 0.4. And after this delay, we spawn the fireball projectile. And we spawn it using the transformation of our mesh. We get the socket location, which is fireball socket. Well, just to make it clear, if we look at the skeleton, it is here. We have fireball socket right there. So we get this socket and make transform, and we need to adjust the rotation to point to the enemy, right? To us. However, I have this variable that is called aim, so we will be rotating this not to our enemy but to the aim, and we will set the aim a bit earlier. So here there is this moving target accuracy delay, and here we have 0.4, which equals this. It's the same thing, right? This has to match. So this is happening after 0.4. This is happening 0.4 minus this accuracy delay. So this happens a little bit earlier. And here we get location of our enemy, also a bit of a random float in range, so this is also a little bit of an accuracy. So we get the location roughly like this, and we set our aim. And here we're using this aim to shoot the fireball at. It's not really necessary with the fireball, but it really is necessary for the shotgun shooter, and it has same thing. So to recap, if we take a look here, this setting of the aim will happen 0.4 seconds from the beginning of animation minus the accuracy delay that we can adjust. So this happens a bit earlier, and this happens a bit later. So if we have moved during this time frame, which is the accuracy delay, then it will shoot not at us, but it will shoot in thin air. So this gives us the moving target accuracy delay logic. I hope this is that my explanation are clear on this. So to make it simple, we are making sure that the aim that we're throwing the fireball at was set a little bit before before spawning of the fireball, because if we make it instant, then it will shoot straight at us, no matter how fast we're moving. So in case you will have a different animation, you will adjust this delay right to match the moment when you want to spawn the projectile, and you will have to match this value to this value, and everything will work automatically from there. Okay, then this is an important part. We spawn a fireball projectile and we have this ignore actor when moving, and the target is this mesh, and the actor is our spawned projectile. And let's take a quick look at it. On event begin play, a sequence of events, we spawn sound attached, which is fire sparks, and we ignore actor when moving. Target is collision component, and the actor that we are ignoring is the instigator, is the one who created it. So in this case, it's our fire demon. So you have to set it both here, we don't need that, and here. So we need it in the fireball, in the fire demon, and its fireball. Otherwise, time to time, it will hit itself. It looks very funny. Looks as if he's hitting himself in the face with the fireball time to time, and with a huge impulse, and goes straight to the ground. Okay. It took me quite a while to figure this out, so I saw that happening quite a few times. Okay, on hit, event hit, we're looking, yes, at the fireball projectile. Spawn emitter, which is the explosion, we apply damage, fire damage. Yeah, damage causer is the instigator. It can be self, by the way. This way, in our first person character, let's get a quick look. If it is set to self, then when we take damage, here in the result of damage causer, we will get not the fire demon, but we will get, actually the result will be the fireball. But if we have various types of monsters spawning the fireball, then what we need is to get the one who spawned the fireball. So this is set to the instigator, to the one who created the fireball. And the damage type class is fire damage. Again, it's right next to it. Mostly default values. Yes, everything is set to default, and we use this to identify the type of damage when we get hit. You can assign other properties to fire damage. So a part of the base damage, it can do a number of things to you. You can set it on fire, for example. And you can do this in this blueprint. Next, we check if it's simulating physics, add impulse at location, and then we destroy the actor. That's it. So, well, we probably don't need to block the rocket splash here. By the way, it's blocking my rockets. So if, for example, I don't remember how it is set to the projectiles. If we go to our weapons and the bazooka and the projectile and the rocket projectile and to the sphere, here we can see that the projectiles are ignored. However, if you put this to block here, and this is blocking my rockets too, right? Then the rockets will collide with the fireballs. It's not colliding at the moment, though. Okay. Now back to the fire demon blueprint. So we are ignoring the actor, right? And after a slight delay that covers the second part of the animation, because we spawn the projectile like somewhere in the middle of the animation. Set our animation mode to use animation blueprint again. So we will take a look at this in a moment, because we play the animation and after that no animation is happening. It freezes on the last frame of the animation played. So we need to set the animation mode back to use animation blueprint again. Then we set movement mode back to walking, because here we were disabling the movement so that it stops before it shoots a fireball at us. Okay, so the claws. Check it's still alive. Then check the health of our enemy. Check if it's falling or not. Same thing. Same thing for facing the enemy. Disable movement, play animation, delay, an align trace, a short one. Everything is quite simple here. Apply damage. Damage causer is the instigator. Make a delay and line trace again, because the demon is making 2 strikes with his right and left arm. So this is so when the animations start happening, after 0.3 seconds, first hit happens. Then after this, the second one. It's the same. So it uses the same line trace thing, and then we set animation blueprint again and movement mode, and there is a loop. So this happens again. So let's see the animation blueprint. Here I have the folder called mannequin, because the monster was made based on the default third-person character, and it uses the mannequin, and there are some animations. So we have some animations that were made specifically for the character here. Number of animations with variations, actually 2 types of fireball, also the claws, and mannequin got its own animations, and our character is using this animation blueprint. So this blueprint was not altered. This is the blueprint the way it is by default, and as you can see, it's the default mannequin here, but it can be set to the fire demon because they use the same skeleton. So any character that is rigged to default Unreal Engine skeleton can be used, right? And here we are setting some variables for the conditions of animations transitions. You can see here that it explains itself. So we check if we have an owner. It means if this blueprint is being used, right, by a pawn. So it gets the pawn owner. It will be the fire demon in our case, and get the movement component, and if it is falling, we set is in air variable. And also we get the velocity of our owner, and we from that velocity we get vector length, and we set the speed this way, and this speed will affect our walk run animation. So let's go to animation graph, state machine, and here we have this diagram. So the jumps, you see already it's checking if it is in the air, and this simply simple transition rule by sequence. Now let's check it. Now it's a little bit different. The time remaining ratio, it is checking. Also, this is if it's in the air, and this third person jump start asset, it's the remaining time of the animation. And same for jump and. So there's jump start, jump and there's this loop. And this is a little bit tricky. If we double click on it, we have here not an animation, but a blend space 2D. And this variable, so we were setting the speed, right, based on the speed of our character. So this is just a variable, a float. So we were getting the speed and setting this variable to equal our speed. And let's take a look at this blend space 2D. It is located also like right next to the animation blueprint. So this thing, we have 3 animations here: idle animation, walk animation, and run animation. And there is a variable, right? So the maximum value is 375. If we hold shift and we drag, and we can see that this is basically blending these animations, right? So the less the variable, the more we walk, and then the less we even do that, and we just stand still, and like move a little bit. And this variable and we get the value of this variable here from our speed variable, and the speed variable is set in the event graph here by getting the velocity of the movement, right, of our pawn owner, which is the fire demon. Okay, moving on. Well, I think this is pretty much it for the fire demon. So in the next video we will take a look at our shotgun shooter.